Hi, everyone. Hello.
Hi.
Well, welcome. Thanks for joining us. So I'm trying to test to see if I can read this without my glasses. I increased the font to 20. I think I could do it, but it's not going to work. So this evening, we're celebrating innovation at UH at this final round of the 2018 UH Breakthrough Innovation Challenge. I'm Peter. I'm the Executive Director of PACE, and I'm going to try to be your MC tonight if my voice holds out, and then maybe one of you will have to step in and see. We'll vote. So we're pleased to be putting this event together during Global Entrepreneurship Week. If you don't know what that is, this is a week that's celebrated in 170 countries. So all over the world, these countries are hosting more than 35,000 entrepreneurial activities, like this event that's going on right now. So we're happy to be a small part of it. So competitions like this make a real difference in students' lives. I don't know if you remember, for those of you that were here last year, that we showed some, so sort of it was a memory lane thing where some of our past competitors are now. And it was very exciting to see that there are successful business people out in the world that could trace their roots back to this very competition. So it's very important. So we force the students to come up with viable answers to problems that are really desperate for solutions. And it's not an easy task, but it's a very fulfilling experience for the participants, I think, and gives them a chance to think critically about how their innovation can make an impactful difference in the world. So we couldn't do this without the amazing, generous support of our title sponsor, Acuity. Acuity is one of the largest and most experienced CPA firms. So the firm and its managing partner, Kent Tsukamoto, have stepped up in a huge way to support us, and we're so grateful for their support of entrepreneurial education at UH. And we're also grateful that Julia Okanaka is here from Acuity as a judge, and thank you for joining us today. We have partners across the UH system in this event that help us coordinate, encourage applicants from their colleges, and helped us screen the robust plate of first-round applicants that we had. And I'd like to recognize them as well. So the UH College of Engineering, the UH iLab, the College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources, and the William S. Richardson School of Law have all been amazing champions across campus, and we're grateful for their support as well. Thank you. I have this sticky note here. This is how good my staff is to remind me to thank my boss, Dean Rowley, for his staunch support of PACE. Thanks, man. So, we love you all for all your help. And there's a group here that do amazing volunteer work for us whenever we have these types of competitions. That I like the folks that are here, that are the heroes of this competition, to stand up and be recognized if you're here and when I call you by name. So these are all coaches. So we teamed each team here with one of these amazing people who are volunteering their time. So Peter K. Carrie Lalonde. And Carrie's here. We'll clap for her anyway. Maria Loudon. Thank you. I know Rich Matsura from Pantry isn't here, but thank you, Rich. Robbie Melton. Luelle Medley. Scott Paul. Let me see Scott. Thanks, Scott. Jill Sims. I don't think Jill's here. Thank you. Dr. Rob Yonder. I know he's here. And Bob Nakata from Milwaukee. Thanks, Bob. Oh, there's Carrie. We were just recognizing you, Carrie. Carrie and your team. Thank you, coaches. Your help is so important to us. So each fall, we put the word out about this challenge across campus, and the purpose is to expose students to entrepreneurial thinking and bring recognition and attention to their unique business ideas. So the finalists have definitely delivered on innovation this year. We have 5, and you're about to see their presentations once you get rid of me. So each contestant was tasked with submitting a 2-minute video that described their idea. That was to get through the really rough screening round. And actually, I should thank ourselves. I should thank Chad Walton and Song Choi, and me, I guess, for this screening. They did a wonderful job. And Justin Levinson from the law school. Yeah, all of us. It was brutal work. Thank you. And then, so most of our finalists aren't from Shidler, which is actually quite unusual. Our home in Pace, our Pace's home at Shidler makes it a real magnet for Shidler students, these types of competition. So I think this might be the first time, at least, that I've participated in an event like this in the last 4 years, that hasn't been the case. So Shidler is sadly represented here, and Vance will have to get on this next year. This can't happen again. So they come from fields of study including mechanical engineering, nutrition, and ocean resources and engineering. And many of them might not have as much experience as Shidler students in making a non-techie, non-sciencey presentation. Science is another word, I don't think. So now let's get on with the competition. Our finalists will have 5 minutes to present, and then we'll have 8 minutes to take questions from the judges. So I suppose you want to know who the people are that are making these decisions tonight, and then I'll tell you a little bit about the prizes. So Dana Cotter is the Director of Portfolio for Elemental Accelerator. Thank you, Dana. Julia Oginaka, we don't have to clap for her. No, we'll clap. Thank you, Julia, from Acuity. Tarek Sultan from Sultan Ventures and Accelerate Gait. And of course, Susan Yamada. Everyone knows Susan. Yeah. Okay, so the prizes: $2,000 for first place, a cash prize, and an automatic entry to the semifinal round of the Spring UH Business Plan Competition, which that's way more valuable than the money. That's like a first round bye to the playoffs. I think it's very valuable. To the Champions League, right, Alberta? Yeah. $1,000 for a second place cash prize, and then you get to decide. So if you look at your brochure, you'll notice that there's a tearaway portion. And what we want you to do is to participate and vote on an audience choice, which will also be a prize for $1,000. So you tear the right part of the panel off to cast your vote, and you can do that during the judges, when the judges are arguing over who should be the first and second place prizes. So we have a timekeeper. Oh, outside. Okay, thanks. Well, that's a relief. We're going to be very strict about time. He's going to hold that 1 minute sign up to competitors if you, as you approach that point, and that can be very distracting. But it'll be more distracting when I'm down there with the long pole and the hook. So get ready for that. You ready to go? Woo! Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, our first finalist is from Okara Pizza Crust, presented by Asuka Suzuki, Lauren Tamamoto, and Leanne Young. Ready?
Hi, my name is Lauren Tamamoto, this is Asuka Suzuki, and this is Leanne Young, and together we are Repurposeful Food Innovators. And today we'd like to share with you our latest creation, Okada Pizza Crust. Food waste is a huge problem in the United States. It's estimated that over 26 tons of food is wasted each year, which is valued at over $216 billion. The United States Department of Agriculture defines food waste as edible food mass during the food chain, which can include production, processing, retailing, and consuming. The U.S. government has identified food waste as a major problem and is actively trying to reduce food waste by 50% by the year 2030. One food waste in Hawaii is okara. Okara is the byproduct of soy milk and tofu. At Aloha Tofu in Honolulu, Hawaii, over 4,000 pounds of okara is produced each day. In Japan, over 660 tons of okara is produced annually. Currently, companies that produce okara are not using it and have to pay for its disposal. But why dump ingredients that could be used and made into food products? Using our experience as culinary chefs, we upcycled okara into a delicious, healthy pizza crust. Why pizza crust? Pizza is universally acceptable and popular. Every minute, over 21,000 slices are sold, which equates to over 30 million slices sold a day. Our okara pizza crust will be an alternative for people with dietary restrictions or want a healthier choice, all the while eating something that tastes great.
Okara pizza crust is high fiber, high protein, low fat, no cholesterol, no egg, no milk, and no gluten. The majority of Americans are not getting enough fiber, but if they eat 9-inch okara crust, they can get 40% of their daily needs. So okara pizza crust is triple win, nutritious and helping environment, and tasty alternative for people who have food allergies.
Our target market of 200+ million Americans includes those suffering from celiac disease, gluten allergies and intolerances, people choosing a gluten-free lifestyle, as well as consumers choosing healthy options for their family and themselves. This graph illustrates the potential to enter the gluten-free market. As you can see, there is plenty of room for growth and opportunity for okara pizza crust to enter the gluten-free market. Through our research of what's currently on the market, our direct competitors would be other gluten-free crust companies such as Cauliflower and Udi's. However, when compared side by side, okara pizza crust is a superior product over those competitors. We have simple ingredients which are easy to understand, recognize, and pronounce. We have a short ingredient list compared to the 13 and 14 ingredients that our competitors have. We have a healthier product with our higher fiber and lower fat. And last but not least, we are the only pizza crust that is eco-friendly. So we're helping the Aina, being sustainable, reducing our food waste, and creating a value-added product. Our indirect competitors would be other gluten-free products on the market that people may choose besides pizza. Okara crust is a delicious, healthy, eco-friendly, and forward-thinking product, and that is sure to turn the pizza world on its head.
And now, Asuka is going to pass out some samples to the judges. Sorry, audience, you weren't allowed to have samples. So just imagine it. We'll be passing out some samples. You guys have any allergies or anything? Because there's dairy from the cheese, but gluten-free. Yeah. High fiber. Okay.
Well, can you do that while I have that sample first?
So I guess I'll just use a big voice.
Oh. Or else maybe we can turn it on. So my question is, where'd you come up with the idea to use okara for a pizza crust?
Sure. I am a PhD student, and my research is focusing on early adolescent diet behavior. So when I go to collect the data, I usually talk to adolescents, and many adolescents said, I eat pizza for my snacks or meals. So I thought if we can change the pizza for the healthy food from the unhealthy food, I think it would be, we can change the world. So that's why I came up with the idea.
So this idea is extremely interesting in terms of the food waste perspective, as well as, there's a lot of folks who have dietary restrictions out there, and that's a growing trend as well, whether or not they have the dietary restriction. In your market, your target market slide, you said that there's about 200 million people that you would go after, which is a little more than 60% of the US. I think that's a little bit too large of a size, right? So a lot of times for startups, what you want to do is focus on a specific niche and grow from there. And you've actually identified that niche really well with the dietary restrictions. Do you have a better understanding of what that specific market looks like, the smaller, segmented market within the 200 million folks? Or maybe just how would you go about finding who those folks are, right? What would your strategy be for identifying them?
Okay. Well, while we're working on this project, we were trying to figure out, okay, we work in the culinary industry, and then the business side, we're still learning. So we reached out to different companies. So we reached out to Boston's Pizza to have them taste it, and we actually reached out to Foodland. And so we thought that would be a great opportunity to promote our product out there, because one, this is the only locally owned grocery store out there, and they like to support local businesses. We're getting our okada, we have a good relationship with Aloha Tofu, and so partnering with them, co-branding with Aloha Tofu, getting people interested, because the sustainability is a big buzzword in Hawaii right now. So if we're incorporating food that's produced in Hawaii, and I guess our goal is to start small in Hawaii and then move forward, but getting people who want to eat local, who want to help the environment out, and then we're gonna crazy market the whole thing out of it by demoing it at Foodland Farms in Ala Moana. They have a pizzeria there, so we would have, I talked to someone at Foodland, and they'd be interested in partnering with us to do this and showcasing our pizza crust there, as well as going into the frozen retail natural section. We're not competing against your DiGiorno's or anything, but it'd be that niche market there, and then go from there. And we think our product tastes good. I'm kind of biased, but and so by people tasting it, we'll get that market, and that's our hope.
I agree. I was able to taste the pizza, and I can attest that it tastes delicious. I'm so sorry for everyone sitting in the audience that's not able to partake in it. I've heard of Okada flour, and it's already being sold on the market, and I was wondering, because Okada flour would be a similar market to, similar target market as to the Okada pizza crust. Do you know how that market's doing?
It could be the same market. However, when we make okara flour, we have to pay more money, because during the processing we use raw okara, so we don't have to pay for like a processing. But when we make raw okara to okara flour, then we kind of have to process it, and that cost is kind of expensive. So if we use okara flour, it's going to be expensive.
So my question is the go-to-market strategy. If you're going direct to consumer, that's a lot of branding, and that's a lot of kind of external media and other pieces like that. Whereas if you were going to go with a restaurant or kind of a B2B business, more so, it could be potentially a little less on the marketing side. So I'm curious which of those approaches. It sounds like you're going direct to consumer, but thinking through kind of the addressability of the markets here, I'm curious if you've thought about hotels or restaurants in other ways.
Actually, because we realized if we're selling retail price, say we sell it, we're thinking $8 because cauliflower is like $10 for a 2-pack. and then just selling it wholesale. We'd be selling it for like $3.20, so that'd be initial just to get the buzz. And then right now with the Department of Education, they're trying to promote locally procured items, and so kids eat pizza. Pizza's on the menu in the Department of Education like at least once a month, and so. And then we don't have to pay for packaging, as much packaging too, and marketing. So if we can get it, sell it bulk, frozen, directly to the schools, we can sell it to them at a lower price point, and then just get it out there. And so I was calculating the numbers, and I was thinking, where's my numbers here? If we were just say we made 50-cent profit on each crust, and there's around 185,000 students in the public school system, once a month, 9 months a year, I averaged, it sounds kind of weird, but $92,000 a month and like $833,000 for that. And we're using local products, we're getting healthy, like 12 grams of fiber in one 9-inch crust. So we're getting students to eat something. And I have 2 little kids, they're 4 and 6, and they're pretty picky kids, and then they're eating this crust. I'm actually an instructor at KCC, and yesterday I had my students make this healthy spam musubi, and I said, extra credit for whichever one my kids like. And my kids pushed it aside and they said, is that what you're feeding us for dinner? And so they're very picky, and they like this crust. And so I think we have a winner in our...
So right now, if you have these afflictions as far as gluten-free, dairy, you can't eat dairy, what kind of pizza crust are you eating? What are they eating right now? Or can they not eat pizza at all?
Could I make sure your question is other than okara pizza crust?
What other types of crusts are they available for people who have dietary restrictions?
Yes, there are cauliflower pizza crust. Is very it's popular now. They make crust out of cauliflower.
So like if I went to Round Table or Domino's and I couldn't eat these things, do I have an option?
So some of the other pizza companies, pizza chains out there, they do have gluten-free pizza crusts, biology. It depends on their formulation. So I've come across 2 different paths. One path is going through like ancient grains. So anything but flour, it could be sorghum flour, it could be test flour, something different. You're creeping on.
Thank you very much. Okay, my invisible hook. Next up is Heaterator, presented by Austin Quash, Reginald Tolentino, and Wyman Tom. You guys ready? Come on up.
Test. All right. How's it going, everybody? Wayman, Reggie, and Austin here, coming to you with the Heaterator. Hot or cold, on the go. Ever carry food with you just to find out there's no microwave around to warm up your food? Or no refrigerator around to keep your food nice and cold? Well, never fear, because the Heaterator is here. The Heaterator does both. It cools your food to keep it nice and fresh, or it can warm up your food. We want a piping hot meal. It's also physically convenient, so you can take it with you wherever you go. But most importantly, it keeps your food out of that nasty danger zone. Goodbye, salmonella! Here is our minimum viable product, also known as our MVP. Our design illustrates 2 handles for stability carrying, 2 latches to keep your food protected and safe, and a power button, an on-off switch. Simply press it once for heat, press another for cold, and another for off.
So after defining the problem and identifying our value proposition, we tested our product idea. So over the last few months, we have conducted over 150 interviews to refine and to we have conducted 150 empathy interviews to validate our product market fit. And as a result, we had an astounding 96% willingness to buy our product, and 92% of people having the need to keep their food cold or warmed up when they need to, which are the 2 key features of our product. So when we initially conducted our market analysis, we first started with the population of the United States to be 326 million people. But as college students, who would use this product, we refined our market size to those in higher education, which is roughly 20 million. Through further analysis and taking into consideration the tendency of students who commute to campus to bring home lunch greater than those that live on campus, we were able to determine our customer segment and market size to be 17.2 million students. However, our market doesn't stop there. With our product potential, there's even bigger market size of 207 million students globally in higher education. But this isn't just for college students. This product would also be suitable for students in elementary and secondary education, which is roughly 56.6 million students. And lastly, we have a large potential market that would be suitable in Japan, who are known for quality, freshness, and aesthetics of food within their culture, and as being a leading frontier in innovation and technology.
So this shows a side-by-side comparison of the capabilities of our competition. We looked at boxes that could heat, chill, be battery operated, weigh less than 5 pounds, and be physically convenient. The most notable thing about our competition is that they're all plug-in. The Heaterator is the only lunchbox that would be battery operated. The only other lunchbox that is able to heat and chill is the Wagon Tech Warmer and Cooler, and that lunchbox does not have the luxury of being physically convenient to be held around during classes. This is our competition positioning chart. The horizontal axis shows the capability of heating and chilling, or doing both, and the vertical axis shows the convenience of carrying around the lunchbox. The Heaterator is in the top right corner because it is able to heat and chill while being very convenient. The other competitors are in their respective quadrants. We'd like to thank PACE for holding this event, as well as Dr. Bob Nakata, our instructor for ME 492, and our 2 mentors, Rich and Pasquale. Once again, my name is Wyman Tong. I am the Chief Executive Officer.
I'm Austin Kwok, the Operations Officer.
And I'm Reginald Tolentino, the Chief Technology Officer. And together we are the inventors of the Heaterator.
Great job, guys. That was very entertaining and engaging.
Thank you.
So you focused in on the college commuting students, which I thought was great. You know, you chose a specific niche now to basically play devil's advocate to myself. Have you thought about another market in terms of the outdoor market, for example? So a lot of folks might take this with them to go camping, and if so, is there the opportunity for this to be solar powered as opposed to just like plugging it into a wall to recharge every night?
Ours is actually battery operatable, so it doesn't need to be plugged into a wall charger. But during our empathy interviews, we talked to a wide variety of people. So I actually asked construction people, and the funny story is that most of them were saying, oh yeah, I just carry a microwave in my truck. So, I mean, and then they take it out and plug it into their car strip. And I was like, wow, that must be a real hassle for you. So, I mean, and those were the type of people that we could potentially sell it to.
So the second part of my question is are you able to charge that battery with like a solar panel on the bottom?
Yeah.
So the plan is to have rechargeable batteries in our device. So just like your smartphone, you can, when you come home, clean it out, you can plug it into the wall, and by the next day it should be ready to go.
So potentially, we can charge it by solar panels.
I also have a question on the market. So the student market has a historically very low willingness to pay for things. If you think about being a student, you often have lots of other expenses. So I'm curious, one, have you guys costed your product, or have you created a cost forecast for your product? And two, did you actually ask people their willingness to pay in dollars? Or just yes or no?
Right. So one of our questions, part of our survey, actually, when we were going through our MC interviews, out of the 150, our average was $110, and majority of our people that we interviewed were college students because we were going around campus.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that was their willingness.
So
to
they
pay.
said that they would. 96% said that they would pay $110.
No, that was the average of the 150. 150.
Pretty surprising, but yeah. Let me show
Tell
that
me
comment.
$200.
Yeah.
Similar to Tariq's comment, I also could see I had 2 children that are in sports all day on the weekends. So it's a challenge sometimes for me to get food and then have it last throughout the day, throughout their sporting activities. So I think that's also another potential market. I didn't understand, so normally I have things for them that I want, they're kind of out of the fridge, that I want to heat up later, but then I also have things I want to keep cold, like fruits and salads and vegetables and drinks. So I didn't understand how, so it keeps whatever you're having, it keeps it cold, and then I press the chill button, and then when I want to heat it up, I press the heat button. I guess I didn't understand how that works.
So yeah, as of right now, for our MVP, it only has either or. So right now, if you press the button to chill, it will chill. And then when you want to warm up your food, you press the hot button. But in other versions or iterations that we're going to do later on, we might have separate compartments that could actually have one compartment keeping it chilled, and one compartment could be warming it up.
That'd be great. Sign me up.
Oh, you got it. You're the first one.
I think it's a cool product and something that is, or a hot product, as Eric said. He's so witty. But how did you come up with a market of students? Because I think you're totally missing the boat as far as when you pick like a college student, for example. I mean, and I just because of time, my concern would be more from a parent of a younger kid, because my concern has always been, is the food going to spoil? So if I knew it was going to be chilled, now we still have the problem of remembering to press it to heat it, but it comes more from a food safety perspective. And they would be, I think, more willing to pay food for the assurance that there's not going to be salmonella or whatever things grow in food. So how did you come up with that market, and are you looking at other markets?
Right, so I guess our initial market was, because I actually pitched this idea to my team, and mainly because I do bring home lunch, and so that was one of the issues that I was going through personally. But through our mentors, we actually have conducted and looked at several markets, which does include elementary and secondary education students, which would be a different market from just college students, where they would be going to school. I mean, people in that market would be bringing.
Yeah, but you know what? The students aren't your market. The market is the parents. And there has to be this very clear distinction, Because elementary and secondary school students do not have $110.
Right, that's true. Yeah, so we could potentially look at the population of parents in the United States to see how that goes. Because, yeah, that is actually a good point. But for our entire market, it would actually be like everybody who eats that can actually use a lunchbox. So that's why we actually narrowed it down to the students, because it would help like relate to us. But as my colleague Reginald says, like just like his mom works at a.
Yeah, so my mom works at a hospital, and so whenever she has to eat lunch, she has to go like 7 flights of stairs or 7 floors lower to go to the cafeteria to heat up her food. And so that's another market that we're also exploring as well. People who are in the workforce, and because it is adults who would be paying for this, not the kids. So that is another market that we are looking into.
I know this is just at the concept stage. Do you have any understanding of how hot or cold things can get, and can you do both in one? Like, does it have enough battery power to do both? Right. So I want to heat up my pizza and cool down my Coke.
Right. So the technology that we're using is a tea cooler, which does both the functions of heating and cooling, and the temperature difference would be enough for it to do such capabilities. And we have run through the map, and we're also still in the development phase for that as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next up is G-Trainer, presented by Austin Yoshino.
Good evening. I am Austin Yoshino, a fourth-year engineering student. This is my invention. Here's my little brother Brent, who I'm dedicating this project to. He loves to be around family and friends and where all the action is. He also has a diagnosis of cerebral palsy, a condition that can make this difficult. Despite challenges, he continues to amaze us all as he matures into a fine young man. Brent relies on a medical equipment to walk called a Gait trainer. For the past 10 months, I have been redesigning this device to improve the quality of his life and others with similar needs. These are some of the current Gait trainers in the market today. Notice how they all have a similar design with a wide base in order to support the balanced distribution of the user. The demographics of Gait trainer users includes individuals with cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, and spina bifida. Along with my experiences of learning through Brent, I gathered additional information directly from parents about the pros and cons of a Gait trainer. First, while a Gait trainer is meant to improve walking ability, the amount of practice time ranges from 5 to 45 minutes and is limited by discomfort. Second, the Gait trainer can expand an individual's mobility options to participate in life activities such as socializing in school, accomplishing household chores, and playing sports. However, the awkward shape and large size of these devices are barriers to entering or navigating in spaces and joining activities. This is Brandt's current Gait trainer. It consists of 2 parts. 1, the support system, and 2, the frame. While Brandt looks happy in his Gait trainer, his smile fades with discomfort over time. The support system design puts an enormous amount of pressure under his arms and groin, as his body weight is solely supported by these points. My solution for improvement is to use a vest-style harness to increase support that distributes and reduces pressure. This will optimize comfort, which will result in more use and practice, increasing the possibility of independent walking in the future. My solution to reducing the frame size is to incorporate gyroscopic technology into the wheels. A gyroscopic wheel is constructed using an inner spinning disc enclosed with a wheel-shaped frame. As the inner disc spins, the wheel self-balances, becoming resistant to toppling forces, similar to how a toy top works. Here are some current applications of this technology. In the gyro bike, a gyroscopic wheel is used to replace training wheels. As you can see, the gyroscopic stabilization allows for slimmer and more compact designs for the prototype car and the miniature Segway. This is a sketch of my proposed device, the G-Trainer. The harness provides essential support for comfort, and the frame dimensions are significantly reduced, which removes physical barriers in participating in life activities. I am currently in the process of filing for a provisional patent for the concept of combining gyroscopic technology and gait trainers. As shown in the competitive matrix, the G-Trainer surpasses competition in maneuverability, performance, and comfort. According to my predictions, I would need an initial funding of almost $85,000, but taking 2 years to reach a profit in sales. However, my goal is to acquire a strategic partnership with an existing gait trainer manufacturing company after I develop a working prototype. This will allow me to use their manufacturing and operating resources, reducing my overhead cost to $50,000 and reaching a sales profit within the first quarter. In order to expand the product market for my company, futuristic iterations of this technological application can be used to create other medical equipment for people recovering from stroke or brain injury, injured veterans, and elderly. In closing, I'd like to thank everyone who supported me along this journey. It's exciting to think that I'm just getting started. I'm hoping that you will support my goal in business of helping others.
Wow, that was great. And I think when I walked in, I walked in with your family. Is your brother Brant here with you tonight?
Yes, he's right there.
I was wondering if you asked other families with other similar needs, and if you talked to other families and got feedback on what their concerns were.
Yes, I did. So Brant, as you can see in the picture, he's a part of the AYSO Manoa soccer team, and so in this slide, this is the summary of what they have told me.
I'm curious, you had the cost of the other gait trainers on here, so what's the cost that you're expecting to sell this at?
I'm expecting to sell my gait trainer at $3,000, which is competitive in the market.
And then my second question is, oftentimes these types of products have to go through lengthy certification processes in order to be used, so I'm curious if you've looked at which ones you have to go through, or you have any understanding of what that product timeline would be.
So in the FDA, gait trainers and walking assistant devices are FDA 510K clearance exempt.
The wheel system is interesting to me. Because when you look at this, it is super, I mean, there's no way you can fall off. Like I've fallen off a Segway myself. So I gotta imagine one of the worst things for anybody buying one of these is that the person fall off. How is that prevented in your design?
So when
Falling like sideways, right? Because they're strapped in.
Yes. So the gyroscopic wheel is placed this way, and it resists forces from toppling. And so in my calculations, I would calculate how fast the inner wheel has to spin to become resistant to the forces for an X amount of weight and X amount of height.
So you've done that already?
Process.
Oh, okay. So it's theoretical at this point.
Correct, yes.
So you literally answered all the questions that I would have asked, and then the judges asked the questions that I wanted to ask as well. So I really just have feedback, and I think this is amazing. We did a project last summer at Sullivan Ventures. We had a group of interns work on something similar to this, but it's focused on the elderly market. And you're right. I mean, the options out there are like abysmal for such a huge need. So I really just commend you on your work on this project. It's amazing work.
Thank you.
For your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're on our fourth finalist.
is Dive Buddy. And that's going to be presented by Bradley Biesma and Nick Hall.
So, aloha, I'm Nick Hall, and
I'm Brad.
And we're presenting Dive Buddy. Growing up here on the islands, we both found a love for the ocean and scuba diving, and scuba diving allows us to explore the underwater world, which is absolutely gorgeous if you get a chance. But it requires a lot of equipment to keep you safe, namely a dive flag. By law, divers are required to carry a dive flag to alert boaters in the area if there's divers in the water. But if you've ever dove with a dive flag, they're really frustrating to use. Being a UH diver, I go off frequently in my job to do an underwater task with a buddy, but more often than not, my tow line will get caught on rocks or coral, namely myself. And I end up getting entangled in it, and you get struggle with the line, and eventually you drift off from your partner. If you can't free yourself, you can actually suffocate from this. And for that reason, a lot of divers don't dive with a dive flag. But that's also the reason that a lot of divers get hit by boats. In 2016, a Kailua man was killed after being struck by a boat while diving off Lanikai. And this happens all over the US. In 2017, there are 27 deaths and 40 injuries from boat accidents alone. In addition, divers most commonly die from being entangled by their own line, being separated from a group, or by being left behind by the boat because the boat doesn't know they're still in the water.
So to address this problem, we came up with the Dive Buddy drone, which is essentially a wireless dive flag that will track scuba divers via their watch, which most divers already have. This dive flag will include unique patentable features such as never losing connection with the underwater scuba divers, and also it will always stay above them and never drift away from the current. It'll just stay on you and stay above you while you're diving, and while you go, it will map your dive. On the market, there's nothing really that does this at all. Like, we're the only one with a drone that's focusing on safety. Everyone else is focusing on filming and having a nice camera, while we're focusing on particularly safety with the dive flag on top of our drone, and also having pre-programmed messaging capabilities to communicate with the scuba diver and boaters nearby. So our target audience for this is dive tour companies. PADI is the biggest scuba dive association, and online they have 65 PADI certified companies with boats in Hawaii. So in talking with local companies like Dive Oahu, they're very excited about the possibility of reducing the risk of losing their divers, because it's a big risk that poses to them. And so they said they'd be willing to buy 2 of these things for each boat at $1,000 per drone. So from that, and also talking to other companies, we found that each dive company on average has about 2 boats.
So just sort of walking through what the market potential is, at 9,000 tours globally that have dive boats, with 2 boats per dive tour and 2 drones per tour, that's $36 million at $1,000 per drone. If we have a 25% market share, that's $9 million. We can produce this for $200 per drone, which would give us a $7.2 million profit margin. In order to get there, within the next few months, we intend to go through a process of validation, because we want to make sure this thing stays above you 100% of the time. It's a safety device. We want you to be safe. Having a sister that's a lawyer, we're going to work with her to file patents. And after we file patents, we're going to go and use our relationship with Dive Oahu. They've already agreed to purchase this device. And work with them to develop it more for dive operators. Once we've expanded our sales locally, we'll go ahead and expand out to DEMA, which is the nation's largest dive equipment show in the nation, where we hope to get the approval and feedback from a larger consumer base. From there, we'll apply to AAUS, which is a safety organization, to try and expand globally. A little bit about ourselves, why we're qualified. We're both engineers in the ocean engineering department. We've worked on projects like this before, and we know what we're doing. In summary, this is a patentable technology that has no market competitors and a huge profit margin, and it has the potential to save lives. We'd like to thank our mentors, Dr. Yanover and Peter. They've helped us tremendously in developing this presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I used to work in a dive shop here, so this is super personally interesting to me. But I'm curious, when you're taking dive charters out, typically it'll be one instructor to 5 or 6 potentially new or certified divers. Who does this follow, and how does that work if the first market is dive charters and you're trying to track 6 or 7 people at one time?
So this technology actually can track multiple divers at once, and if someone is a boat operator on the boat, they'll be able to connect up to it with an iPad and see underwater, okay, I have 6 divers in the water, this is where it is, they're at this depth. It'll send us status updates saying, okay, as a diver, if you're struggling, you can press a button that says, I'm struggling, and then that dive operator can send messages to other divers saying, hey, this person's having a hard time, or hey, there's an emergency happening, we need all of you to get out of the water. So it allows the dive operators to have a lot of control over what they send to the divers and monitor their health and status.
So are you then expanding into the dive watches, or would you integrate with other ones? Because right now there isn't that capability. So is that an expansion? Is this like first step, second step, total scuba takeover? What are we looking at?
So we would probably eventually partner with a company that already has their dive algorithm, although I've personally developed an algorithm for dive tables, so that technology isn't too difficult to develop your own watch, though it would make sense to go with those who already have a market share.
I'm not a diver, I have 0 experience. I thought it was really interesting. The first question I had was, I watched the original video that you had, and the water was pristine, it was calm, it was beautiful. My first thought was like, what happens if it's really windy and choppy? Even with a GPS, would it be powerful enough to stay on top of the divers?
Yeah, so I also interned with a boat building company, and I have access to naval architectures, and they have a lot of experience designing boats specifically for this. And so we can design a boat to withstand like currents of two knots in a current, and you're generally not like diving in crazy conditions anyway. So we can engineer this to be the right conditions for our scuba divers.
Anna's nodding her head and agreeing, so I'm just going to trust that she agrees with your response. My other thing was, I thought the point that you could have diver location and safety information, I thought that was actually really appealing to me, and that was actually almost more of a selling point than the uncomfortableness and the danger aspects of it being attached to you. So I think that if you can kind of mock out what that would look like, that module and that panel that the voters could watch so that they can keep track of their divers, I think that might be an important part to emphasize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you able to go back a few slides to your competition or your price point slide while you're doing that? I think it's awesome that you had Dr. Yanover as a judge. As soon as you were talking about this, I'm like, this is perfect for us. The competitive matrix one, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I think I went too far.
A little bit of a lag going on here.
So my question while you're getting there is, why did you choose the $1,000 price point? You go one more.
So that's actually, I was talking with a bunch of dive shops around the island here, and after workshopping with them on what price points would work, that's the price point that they agreed that they would be willing to buy this at. So that was sort of just what we could make as a profit margin.
Cool. So the reason I'm asking, the reason I want this slide in particular is I didn't get a chance to scan it all before, but I thought I had saw that everybody else was charging way more, right? And so I'm wondering if you're leaving money on the table with such a low price point.
Yeah, so the thing about this technology is that we're on the surface and everyone else is underneath, and that changes your technology a lot. Also, everyone has like 4K cameras on it, super expensive. So it's just, they're trying to do different things, and it costs more. So we're just putting a thing on top of the water, which is not as far away.
Also, we're not just applying to be like another dive drone. We're trying to make it so that, you know, divers who go out and aren't necessarily a dive tour, they can also go and carry this with them. If they're some scuba diver or even some free diver off Waialae, they're just as important as the dive tours. Because those are the people that, it's the Kailua man that got hit by a boat, not a dive tour.
The future market is individual, but right now all the dive companies have them up.
So I thought your little depiction of how you use that, it kind of reminded me of like a ginsu knife with cutting, or a dull knife cutting tomato, and how they're like really bumbling around, so that was kind of entertaining. Can you explain a little bit more about the equipment? So you have the watch, you have something on the boat, the boat that follows you around, and then you have information that's coming up in an iPad on the mothership, right? How does that all work?
So underwater, Wi-Fi doesn't work. So in terms of the technology that goes between the watch and the drone, that's proprietary, and that's what we're going to be filing patents on. But when you have a drone on the surface, that works via Wi-Fi. So they're just connecting via Wi-Fi.
So it's going from your watch to the buoy, right? Then the buoy to the ship.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So just that whole underwater proprietary technology you have you thought about using it for anything else? Like, I don't know, oil rigs?
Well, it's not. Well, it's using acoustics, so you're using sound to transfer information. That exists. That's already, people use that for oil rigs and everything, but this is particularly for scuba divers and...
So actually, the technology that exists for oil rigs and things of that sort, those cost $40,000 or more. They're 10-foot poles, they're enormous. So this does actually have an application for them, but we're not quite sure. The amount of money that exists within oil rigs, they're already putting money into more complex technology. What we're going for is taking a step back and realizing there's an entire other market that they've completely ignored, and we have the ability from our past experiences to scale down what they're doing, make it simplified, patent that technology, and then sell it.
So I think Tarek's point earlier was exactly one of my thought processes, which is especially dive shops pay tens of thousands of dollars for equipment. So I definitely think that the price point could probably be adjusted a little bit. And another thing that I would consider is what is the data that you're collecting, and is there actually like a reoccurring type of business model where it's not just one-off unit sales, but really capitalizing on that particular data. So something to think about in the future in terms of what you're collecting and how do you utilize it.
That's one notion that actually we're thinking about. Is Garmin does a lot of mapping. So this technology has the ability to map your dives, so you can start making in-depth dives, maps of local areas, and sell that information too. So there is a lot of other opportunities available.
Thank you.
Okay, so our fifth and last finalist is Vert, presented by Ame Arakaki. Ready, Ame?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Hello, judges. Hello, some of you. My name is Ame Arakaki, as Peter said. I'm a senior mechanical engineering student.
Microphone.
Huh?
Speaking to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Better? Okay. Alright, so I'm a senior mechanical engineering student who doesn't know how to use microphone. And I'm going to talk to you about the bird system today. Alright, so the biggest issue facing the medical cannabis industry and the recreational cannabis industry isn't necessarily one of legalization anymore. It's actually of contamination. Because now that the industry is moving to a more widespread market, protocols need to be put in place to protect consumers from possible infections. The biggest outbreak to date was in 1984, and it was a salmonella outbreak across multiple state lines, affecting hundreds of people, and the CDC couldn't tell how these people were getting infected until a few people came forward and admitted that they were cannabis users. And then the CDC checked with all the other patients, they all were cannabis users. So one product across multiple state lines affected hundreds of people's health. Okay, the reason for this is because on the left-hand side here, you got what the typical practice is, which is a backyard haphazard protocol or methodology, where usually a person who's not in any type of isolated environment, maybe using gloves, not using a mask, maybe using a hairnet, maybe they're perspiring, they're breathing on the product, and they're transferring pathogens onto the product that will go to people, in the case of medical cannabis, who are very sick with like epilepsy or cancer, and don't have an immune system to fight off an infection like E. coli, salmonella, mycotoxins. Any of those issues come up, and we're really going to start to see backlash on the legalization of cannabis. So they need to move to more of an industrialized pharmaceutical methodology where the chemicals that are used to make the medications are isolated away from the environment and away from human contact. So no possible vectors for pathogen contamination. Okay, so this is our solution for how they would do that. On the left-hand side here, you have only the growing section of our unit. This is a panel system, so we have 6 panels. We have a centralized light and a robotic armature that is loaded up with LiDAR and sensors so that we can seal off this entire area away from the environment, grow the plants, take analysis of the plant's health, chemical production, everything that goes on in there, and it never gets touched by a human being, never open to the environment. And when we harvest, we are able to harvest the plants and isolate it through the nutrient channel, which is underneath the unit. Thereby, it never touches the environment until the point at which you break open the blister pack and consume a pill with cannabis oil or some other product. On the right-hand side is our nearest competitor, the leaf. But that's a consumer product. Ours is an industrialized, commercialized unit. Okay, so this is a graph that Forbes magazine printed in 2016 that shows the compounded annual growth rate for the cannabis industry over the next 7 years. In 2018, they expect to finish around $15 billion worth, and at 2021, they should be nearly $30 billion in market value. That's nearly double in just 3 years. So how are they going to move such a big industry to being safe, clean, and secure? Okay. So this is our unit on the left, and as you can see, we use a vertical growing methodology. We're able to, and this is a 2x4 space. Their entire unit is a 4 foot by 4 foot cubic unit. They can grow at most 2 plants in that space. We can double that in just a 2x4 panel, and we have 6 panels, so that's 24 units. We can do nearly 10 to 12 times the efficiency. This is an image of our full unit with the computerized processing dome, the grow area, and the solution vessel on the bottom. And this is how we propose the cannabis industry will move to a more industrialized pharmaceutical methodology. Thank you. This is Wayne. We hope to produce our unit to compete with the lead. Thank you.
Okay, Ame, number 1. Congratulations for finishing on time. I think that's the first time you've ever done that.
I'm sure I finished early, remember?
No, I don't remember. Okay, so my question is, you cite a salmonella outbreak in 1984?
Yes.
Is there anything more recent than that? How many, I mean, how prevalent is this?
So I came up with 72 articles, and I crunched it all down to the most impactful ones. So if I go back to that slide, these 3 articles I chose them because California is the biggest state where recreational cannabis is being utilized, and that is an article produced with the state's own head lab facilities talking about the contamination and how widespread it is. This one was also in California, another issue that is
What
really
year though?
Yeah, these are all recent. And even the one that talks about the 1984 outbreak, the thing is, this is a 2012 art. I think that's 2012. I can't see it in the upper corner.
Okay. I guess what my point is I just like to see a bigger problem, because when you lead off with 1984, I was like, okay, well,
right.
I'm not sure how big a problem it is, but I know that the whole cleanliness and the bunny suits and everything are important when growing, particularly medical marijuana. So I believe that is an issue. But I guess my question becomes, recreational is one thing, medical is another thing. It's two different markets in my mind, particularly when you have weakened immune systems, as you were talking about. The medical thing has to be medical grade, if you will. So I know that in the farms that they're growing, they're very, very cautious of who has access, how they're dressed, etc.
Right.
So are you saying that that's not regulated?
No, it's regulated, so they are required to test their samples before putting it on the shelves in their pharmacy. So as you know, I had Tanya Johnson as my previous business coach, and she worked for Noah Botanical. So I've been working very closely with her in developing the protocols and approaches. Like, she informed on the process, like, do we really have to isolate this away from people? Can we not, just suit them up like in the bunny suits? Allow them to handle the product and be able to do it that way, like open the cabinets. And she lost, I think it was a $4 million worth of crop due to one fungal infection from a person who brought spores in. They had a clean room, they had the double door, they had positive pressure, everything. They don't know if it came in on the person's skin or their hair, but it cost them a lot of money.
I know nothing about the cannabis industry. I'm sure it's filled with jokes, yeah. So